from the old plantation non-stop. Fight, bill, fight, bill. Screams from the old plantation non-stop. Fight, bill. Screams from the old plantation non-stop. Fight, bill, fight, bill.
Well, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Thought Plantation Podcast. I'm your host, Gio, and today I'm joined by a really awesome guest all the way from the motherland of Tongatapu. And today I'm joined by a really good friend of mine, Joshua Ake. I was going to say your full name, Josh, but I've sort of mistaken which part is Wepin, which part is Bongi Drau. Which one comes first?
So it's Joshua Bongi Drau, but the way to say like Fijian is like Bongi Drau.
Oh, okay, yeah. I can't do that last bit. Well, thanks for being on the podcast, man. I really appreciate you joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for that awesome introduction, even though I don't deserve it, but thank you for that.
You are a good friend of mine. I mean, geez.
Also, I just want to, sorry for interrupting, I just want to say, out of all the people that's been on the podcast, I'm the least qualified to be on this podcast. Thank you for having me.
If you are the least qualified person, then what the hell am I doing hosting a podcast?
Dude,
Jesus Christ.
Dude, at least you like look after people and stuff like that. I don't do anything.
You're breaking up slightly. You're breaking up slightly on that last bit there. That's all good. That's all good. I think we're both getting a bit overexcited, complimenting each other, which is weird.
Yeah.
Because me and you growing up, we mocked the living crap out of each other. So this doesn't feel natural. I want to say something really mean just to get us over and get us over the top.
So far, Gio.
We've come so far. We've come so far. We've matured. Apparently. Apparently.
Yeah.
Apparently, we've matured.
I don't know. For sure, you've definitely matured. Like, you're definitely different from when you were in high school.
Well, kids will do that to you.
Yeah. So really good to see.
Nah,
I think that's what everyone says. Every time they like me and stuff.
Oh yeah.
I was like, man, she's so grown up.
Oh well.
I was like, what? And then when I met you, like 2 years ago when I came over.
Yeah.
And I stayed over at you guys' house. Yeah, I was like, oh my god, Gio, this is really mature.
It's all a facade. It's all an act. It's all an act. Well, listen, speaking of me starting a podcast, you, my friend, have been quite busy yourself. Before we get into all that stuff, you want to give the people a brief introduction of who you are and what you're doing at the moment.
Okay, so I am, for my main job, I'm a photographer. I just started photography last year, December. But I also do short documentaries. So I've released 2 short documentaries so far. And I have a few more upcoming. I'm also an aspiring filmmaker. I want to be like a director in the future. And I also like review films. That's something new as well, reviewing films.
Okay, that's awesome, man. I didn't realize you were aspiring to become a
film director.
Film director. Yeah, that's cool, man. And it's those PG films too, right? It's not one of those rated R, can only be seen at night. Disney
films.
Disney rated films. That's awesome, man. I mean, you've stepped into that role slightly with like you mentioned earlier. You've released 2 documentaries already. Lava and is it Lotolahi, the second one?
Lotolahi, yeah, that's the second one.
So what started that out? Well, I mean, what made you sort of think I need to make a documentary? Where did that start?
Well, for the short documentaries and stuff, it's more I just saw that Tonga wasn't doing those types of videos so I wanted to make videos somewhat like those Vox videos. You know that channel Vox on YouTube?
Yes.
So I wanted to. Yeah. So I wanted to do videos like that, but then obviously I can't with all those graphics and stuff. So the next best thing was for like short documentaries, and in the short documentaries, I just wanted to focus on like talk about issues that aren't widely discussed openly in like society and stuff. So I wanted to kind of address or just like shine a light on some issues here in Tonga. And so that's what kind of started me going on short documentaries. Like I already, like in general, I just want to be like a film director and stuff. But making a film is like a little bit difficult because you have to come up with a script and you have to like work with some actors. There's lighting and stuff like that. Then there's post-production, right?
Of course.
Whereas documentaries, I don't really have to all I have to do with documentaries is just I ask people if I can interview them. I don't have to pay them, and then I just like edit the films. Like there's such a short process when it comes to short documentaries. But I mean, it's still difficult because you have to try to condense. Like there's been like one interview that I did for 4 hours, and that's the one that I'm currently working on right now.
Wow.
It's on an artist, Tevita Latu.
Okay.
And what's it called? Yeah, Tauke was talking about him, but yeah. So I did a 4 hour interview with him, and then now it's just like finding the way to structure. So that's the difficult part of making a documentary. Everything else besides that is relatively easy in comparison to film. So that's what I'm just doing now with short documentaries and stuff.
That's
cool.
Just
trying to cut my teeth with how to assemble something together.
I mean,
then, like
no, go on.
Sorry, and also like the B-roll shots, like when they're talking in between those, like when they're talking and stuff, those shots, the B-rolls in between those, that's where I can like mess around and try to put my filmmaking stuff into it. So the interviews are just very like tripod shots, and they're the ones that's like it's very. There's nothing exciting about the shots of the interview for me. But then when I do the B-roll shots, that's where I try to do slow motion and then like close-ups and stuff like that.
Being humble doesn't become you, man. I think you're very oversimplifying. You're very oversimplifying. I mean, the amount of work that you put into your last documentary. I mean, I've seen it, and for someone who's never done a documentary before, am I correct? When you did La Lava, which is your first documentary, I mean, have you done anything prior to that?
No.
So, which is. I guess is the point I'm making is that for someone who's never released a full documentary, I mean it's short in the sense that obviously you're not doing a National Geographic 3-hour long documentary or sort of a Vice documentary about this and that, but you managed to get through a lot of important aspects, and like you mentioned earlier, you're highlighting a lot of things that's not necessarily talked about, especially in Tongan society. So, I guess we're talking about a documentary that, maybe some of the people that listen haven't seen yet. But do you want to give a quick rundown about your first documentary, La Lava, and what's it about?
So La Lava is a documentary about people with disabilities here in Tonga and like what are the issues they face. So I interviewed 4 subjects. Some of them are working within like these NGO, but I think they call they call it DPOs. It's not NGOs, it's like something else. Okay. And so they were just discussing about like there's some issues here in Tonga where a lot of people don't really pay attention to like people with disabilities. One of the big things was like the structural issues here in Tonga, like the ramps and stuff. Accessibility here in Tonga is very like little and stuff.
If any.
Yeah, so like to go to a bank, there's no ramps in banks and stuff. So the ANZ, like I went, not to call out ANZ, but it's majority of
call them out.
But then like ANZ, they actually have a ramp outside, but then to get to the ramp, you have to go over stairs. So it defeats the whole purpose. It makes
so the peak of Tongan ingenuity,
Yeah.
If you want your money, we've got a ramp, but you need to climb 3 stairs before you can actually get to that ramp. That makes no sense. That makes zero sense. Oh my god.
Yeah. So, but it's not just like banks, like restaurants and stuff like that. There's a lot of like accessibility issues. And one of the subjects that I was interviewing, he was saying that it doesn't really take that much to create a ramp, or even like if we do have ramps in the sidewalks, it shows in the sidewalks are meant for like people with people in wheelchairs, right? But then there's like a pole like in the middle of the sidewalk, so they have to like get down. So there's just like a lot different issues and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So those issues were raised. Like we don't even have Braille and some of the signs and stuff like that. So there's a few issues that Tonga is just lacking.
I mean, what it highlights is that there is a subgroup of people within the Tongan population that's currently not being talked about and not being seen. They're not being added into the equation when talking about infrastructure changes and upgrades. Because it wasn't that long ago. When we're still living in Tonga with the riots, where literally a majority of our town center was burnt down. Now that would have been, in my mind, a good opportunity to start, upgrading everything to be up to standard. And not just that, you mentioned it before, the accessibility, because it's not just disabled people who need ramps. I mean, the elderly. The elderly also need ramps. You don't see a 90-year-old lady trying to walk up some stairs. There's a lot more to it than just and it's a lot of things. I think we really take for granted being able to access stores. I mean, people who are able-bodied at the moment. I don't know what the PC word is for able-bodied.
No, I think it is able-bodied because okay. So when I was making the documentary and I had to translate, I had to look up the correct terms because I didn't want to mess up some of the words. Because even that, I was just writing whatever. And
anyone's gonna be.
I was like, oh my goodness, that's the wrong word.
But people will be offended with whatever you say. Able-bodied? What do you mean able-bodied? They're abled as well. It's whatever. Anyway.
And it's even the translation of Tongan,
Well, yeah, that's difficult in itself, isn't it? Because the Tongan language, as descriptive as it is, I'm sure you ran into certain parts where you couldn't translate properly, eh? So I'm guessing that's one of the things that you ran in, which is a good segue into one of the questions I was going to ask, which is, while filming the documentary, aside from everything we've talked about so far, what were the challenges that you faced? Was it finding enough people to interview? Was it the type of interview questions? The translation side of things? What did you find challenging about it?
No, so that was the easy part, finding people to interview. All the people that I interviewed, they were more than happy to want to talk to me. And when we were talking, they were talking for ages, and it was this thing where you could just feel they wanted their voices to be heard, right?
Excellent.
And so that was the easy part. The hard part was the thing that came afterwards, where I think altogether, all the interviews that I did for that short, I think it ended up being somewhere between 4 to 5 hours, and I had to cut all of that down to 20 minutes. Right? It was initially supposed to be just a 5 to 10 minute documentary. But then, because there was just so much stuff that I was I cannot cut that out. So it's just the difficulty of what to put in and what to take out.
Right.
Because there was other stuff in the interviews and stuff that was just, it was way important and stuff. But I had to cut it out simply because of either pacing or it just didn't fit well with the flow of the short documentary. So I wanted to if that subject was just super important that I couldn't take it out. I had to include it just to show that there are these different struggles, and I didn't want to cut their voice too much. But again, it's just because pacing issues. I had that was the difficult part of what to take out and what to include in the short documentary.
Yeah, I mean, it just hearing how, and looking at documentaries about how film is made, it must be really sucky going to the cutting floor and having to cut out a really awesome part or a really awesome interview section. But because it doesn't, like you say, it doesn't fit into the pacing of the entire documentary, you kind of have to leave it on the cutting floor.
I've heard some documentaries that they recorded 100 hours and they only had to release 10 hours of that. And I was like, what in the hell? I can't even imagine that.
Yeah, I mean, the editing part seems to be the most difficult one. When you put it on.
And the translation part, man, that was another issue that I ran into, was because the way Tongans speak, it's so weird. I had to have, because my tongue is not that great, so I had to I got 2 of my other friends and also my sister. So there's 3 people that we had to all collectively, translate the subtitles. And so, but when you're listening, because first of all, I had the documentary down, so it was the whole 30-minute documentary, right? And then we all understood what they were saying in Tongan without any subtitles. When we had to translate it, it was very difficult because what they were talking about, you could understand it without giving context, but when you had to translate it, you had to include context into it. And so it was this very difficult part where we were the documentary was already done, but we had to go back to the original clip to see what the context was for that. Yeah, so it was just this whole mess and stuff.
Translating a language like Tongan would always be difficult.
Man. Oh my goodness!
Especially because there certain phrases in the Tongan language just cannot be translated well into the English language because it either loses the spirit of the word or spirit of the phrase. It just doesn't come across as well. So that must have been really difficult. But looking at the like I said, I watched the documentary when it came out, and I watched it again a couple of nights ago in preparation for this podcast. And to me, I felt that it was a very clear translation. But I guess I see the end product. You obviously you're explaining.
We were pulling hairs, dude. Like it was insane. But also, I just want to like put myself down a little bit. You said that like this is like my first documentary was like good and stuff like that. But I just want to say like literally anybody can do this. One of the other reasons why I wanted to start this like whole like shooting documentaries and stuff like that is that literally anybody can do this. What I wanted to do was to like show people that. Because there is some times where people like hire filmmakers from overseas, right, from like New Zealand and Australia to come over here and film our stuff and then like go back and then edit and stuff like that, right? I want to show that you could just all you need is a camera, or not even a camera, like you just record on your phone and then you can just like ask interviews and stuff like that. I wanted to show that you can all do all that stuff here in Tonga, that you don't need people from outside to come into Tonga to do this stuff. We can do this over here. Like literally anyone can do it here.
And I agree. I mean, I will have to say, excuse me, I will have to say that although what you say may be true, that anyone could do a documentary, it's a little bit more. Sorry, I'm burping because I'm drinking all this beer. Jeez, and maybe beer and podcasting isn't a good mix. But anyways, sorry. Back. Let me get my train of thought.
Other people do it.
Yeah, maybe I just can't handle it. I don't know, man. Export gold. Maybe it's not sitting well with me this evening. Anyways, so let me just get back to my train of thought. So I hear what you're saying. I guess in terms of making a documentary, I think there's not a lot of elements needed to make a documentary. Anyone, like you say, can make a documentary, but I think it comes down to a little bit more than just you can do this. I mean, you need to be motivated. You need to have a goal. You need to have a vision of what you want to create, because I'm sure people can make documentaries about, for example, about this and that. But I think what you've done is you've touched on a very touchy. Well, you've touched on a subject in Tonga that is, like you said earlier, not talked about much. Unless it's a tragic event in the news or something like they've gone to the Olympics and they've won a medal. But there's no sort of
or the shirtless dude at the Olympics.
Oh God,
Pita something.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot his name.
God, we really should know these names of these guys, eh? There. I mean, listen.
Is it?
No, I thought it was. No, I'm getting confused. No, Pita Tamoipenu is that NFL player. Pita. We suck. We suck terribly. Yeah. This is like high school all over again. Hey man,
he's from your country. You should know.
No, we don't need to know. We don't need to know. I don't need to know shit. All right. I know what I want to know, and that unfortunately is not high on my priority list of things that I need to know. Nothing on him. There's nothing. It has nothing to do with him. It's just not my interest right now. So I don't really need to know his name. I know his name is Pita. That's all I need to know.
Me too.
And I've kind of gone off track in what we're talking about.
I don't remember, nor do I care.
Oh no, yeah, neither.
Oh no, yeah, we were talking about like how it's easy to make a
yes.
documentary.
But so like I said, you mentioned it's easy to make one, but I would have to say that it takes a little bit more than having the skill to throw a couple of shots together with an interview. I think what you did was a little bit more. I think what you did was capture a side of people and a side of the population that no one really knows too much about. I don't remember a documentary or any sort of film in Tonga specifically. We're talking about Tonga specifically that highlights these athletes. That highlights these people. So that's what I want to do. Like,
sorry for interrupting you, but that's what I want to do for my like next short documentaries. Is I want to try to interview women that goes through like domestic abuse or
wow, that's a big one.
Here in Tonga, or youth unemployment here in Tonga. But those are the videos that I haven't seen.
There's a lot, man,
being produced here in Tonga.
I
know. So there's a lot of issues. I mean, even like there's this like this is not a societal issue, but there's an increase of like vehicles here in Tonga, and I find that interesting because like 10 years ago, there wasn't as I don't know when was the last time you came back here, but there's just like so many vehicles. Like before, when I went to church, there was barely any cars outside and stuff. Now, like there's like opposite the field opposite Sayona, it's just like full every Sunday, and there are even cars going inside the grounds of the church, which just I would never see before. So yeah, it's insane how like the increase of vehicles here in Tonga. I find that interesting and stuff as well.
What I find interesting is I didn't realize you still go to church. Is that?
I'll take the Fifth Amendment. I'll plead the Fifth.
No, it's a good point. The last time I was in Tonga was last 2019, early in the year, I believe. It was when you were still in Australia, or maybe it's the middle of the year. So
yeah,
I do agree with that. I do realize and recognize how big the population is growing in Tonga. And I think with the correlation of the increase in vehicles must be the increase in population.
I'm actually interested in that because the last statistics I saw was even though there is like a lot of births throughout the year, the population still stays at 100,000 simply because there's a lot of people moving out of the country. So even though there is like a high birth rate here in Tonga, there's just like a lot of people leaving the country to go to countries like New Zealand, Australia, and America. So, but I would be interested to see this. But this is what I mean. Like, I want to know why there's an increase in vehicles here in Tonga. Either is it because there is an increase in population, or is it because there's just the cars are getting more cheaper because there's like much more of an open market, like to get cheap cars from Japan and stuff. Because Tony got like a car, and it was $700 from Japan, but he had to only pay for the shipping and tax, which was $7,000. And that's like, yeah. So that's like, I'm talking in Banga as well, but this is what I'm saying. Like, the market has opened up for Tonga. Like, it's like people are shopping for cars more globally as opposed to just from the car dealers and stuff like that. All they have to do is just like pay for the shipping and the tax when it gets here.
I mean, that makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, if the market is more open and it's more affordable now for people who, maybe in the past could not afford it. Maybe the demand's up there. Who knows? But it is interesting.
Talking out of term, I don't even know. This is just me guessing. Next minute I go and
welcome to my life, my friend. All I do is guesswork. So no, but I mean it's an interesting observation because what I definitely have noticed with each trip I take to Tonga, and I roughly go back to Tonga at least once every year, every 2 years. I feel like there's more things there. I don't know about people. Like, if what you say is true, if the population has remained stable at around 100,000, which is ridiculously low if you think about it, 100,000.
Yeah, that's the last statistics I saw. There's more Tongans living out of Tonga than there is.
Oh no, that's easy. That's easy. That's obvious. But it is interesting that with the population remaining stable, and yet an increase of imports of vehicles and what have you, what's driving that? What is driving that? That's interesting. That's what I'm
interested. Like, are people getting richer, or is there increase in population? But I also think like this is another thing where there's so many people using cars that there's not that many people walking. So, and if you see people walking and stuff like that, it's almost in Tonga, it's almost seen like you're kind of like a lower class for walking, or even taking public transport like the buses.
Wow.
So this is another thing. Yeah, I don't know if you noticed that, but yeah, here in Tonga, it's like almost like a status thing.
Well, I don't think I've been back in Tonga for that long, like in between holiday visits. Like the max I'm there maybe like 3 weeks. But I didn't notice that, and that's a surprise. That's a surprise to me because if you think about it, nothing's that far. This is true, but it's like now again with how you're saying that there's more stuff happening, right? There's more like stores that are kind of like we just recently got like something kind of like similar to Costco. We call it Costco here. When I heard that, I couldn't help but was like, wow, okay. and it's huge. I know that.
Town and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh man.
So, yeah. Vehicles
Cost
does
low,
seem to be like a
sake.
status of, I don't know. You barely see any people walking here in Tonga.
That's interesting. That's an interesting observation, and hopefully you'll be able to get to the bottom of that, because that is weird.
Again,
that
sorry,
is weird.
I definitely could be talking out of term. Like all of this, like I'll go to the statistic department, and they're just like, "Dude, you're so wrong. What are you talking about?" But so this is
how do you know? How would you know until you actually do your do the research and do the investigation? You have a curious mind. Why not explore that a bit more and see what comes out? You may uncover a massive corruption of cars being sold with drugs in them. Who knows? Who knows?
Dude, did you hear about that dude that recently passed away?
Yeah, he's a relative of mine. Yeah, Ned Cook.
He's, no,
that's
I'm so
unfortunate.
Sorry.
No, yeah, it's unfortunate, but I guess for the people listening, a relative of mine who had moved back to Tonga from the United States, I believe he was working with the Salvation Army. He had moved back to Tonga to work with the youth on managing the drug and alcohol issue that'd been plaguing Tonga for the last couple of years, especially the meth use was unfortunately beaten outside or close to, not too far from his home, as far as I was made aware, and unfortunately passed away the next day. So it's really unfortunate because it highlights almost a new era for Tonga. Not too
with the drugs and stuff.
Well, I mean, listen. I mean, all of us growing up, we've been in scraps here and there. For us, not as much as others, but I've been in my few fair amount of fights in town, and there was always this. And I was having a conversation with someone earlier about it today, and there was always this understanding back when we were growing up. This is talking about the 90s. Not even the 90s. It was like the early 2000s, right? The early 2000s is like sort of like the time that we can really remember what the hell we were doing.
Yeah.
But there was an understanding that once you hit the ground, that's it. You move on. But it seems that in Ned's situation, he looked like he was really, really beaten. So it's
tragic.
And it's very tragic because this is someone who has dedicated their lives to working with with the youth, and to have his to have things end the way that it did is really unfortunate. But at the same time, I think it's a really valuable lesson about the things that maybe the government or other people in Tonga may be denying, which is that we may have an alcohol and drug problem in Tonga that needs addressing.
Yeah, I would be interested to see how the government reacts to this death, especially because, given Nick Cook's backstory, where he came here specifically to help the youth, and only for him to so I would actually be really interested to see what would the reaction be to this. Like, will there be like more stricter laws and stuff like that? I'd actually be interested to see that.
I mean that would be the hope, wouldn't it? I mean. With drug and alcohol, drugs are already illegal. Alcohol is a different beast altogether because it's one of those legal substances that you can buy anywhere, and it wasn't too long ago where methamphetamine was one of the. We had a big thing here in New Zealand where we had a news person go over to Tonga and report back and called it the Kingdom of Ice. It's
I didn't like that term.
That was insulting as fuck. Because
bad.
I went back to Tonga not too long after that came out, and of course there's an issue with it, but to nickname us the Kingdom of Ice,
I know
that is beyond insulting.
That was the issue because it was like, dude, you're talking as if like no other country uses meth or there's a meth abuse in like their society. Like you're saying as if like a large chunk of Tongans to the extent that we just like the whole country's called
exactly.
So we do have an issue here in Tonga with meth because was there ever an issue when we were growing up like of meth here in Tonga? I definitely know like
methamphetamine.
Marijuana, but not
marijuana's always been there in our community. You know, I mean, as far as I can remember, I don't remember ever not knowing that marijuana was available there in the community. Methamphetamine, on the other hand, to memory, no, but I'm sure it was, but not to the degree that it has been over the last couple of years. And that has to do with multiple factors. You know, we have a lot of people who sees a market and is exploiting that market for use. And methamphetamine, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, it's all about money, you know, and if anything, the one thing consistent about drugs is that there's always money attached. There's always money to be made when it comes to substances, to illegal substances, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a really unfair portrayal, I think, of Tonga when they came through.
See, this is what I'm talking about, like, and I know Barbara Drever is a Tongan, so is she part Tongan or something? Whatever, she seems part like Islander. But anyways, there's another thing where it's like another issue that I have with people from overseas coming here to Tonga to talk about us and portray us in whatever way that they feel like portraying us, right? They just go back to New Zealand and they edit these stuff, and then like it comes out, we have no say in it, right? Tongans don't have any say.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying about, like, we Tongans here, we need to start making our own videos so we can, like, so it's directly from our voice, whereas opposed to New Zealanders or Americans or Australians coming here, and then like there's this like little filter in between. Like I'm not even saying that I myself can like do a great job of you know, making videos and stuff like that to voice these like stuff, but I think just to have like a little less filter in between the voices that like are telling you what's happening and what's being portrayed out there and stuff. So yeah, I didn't really appreciate that video, even though I think that Barbara Drever is a very talented person.
I mean, it's nothing to do with being talented, you know. I mean, what you say is true, and I agree with it 110%. Is that I think stories about us, stories about Tonga, the narrative needs to be controlled by the people who live in that community, you know. And listen, I think what you're doing is exactly the same reason I am doing this podcast. You know, I mean, I enjoy the living shit out of podcasts. I listen to every kind of podcast, you know, everything out there. But what was lacking for me in particular was podcasts that highlight and talk about specific issues, you know.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Go.
Keep interrupting. I'm so sorry. But listen, look, this is what I absolutely wanted to come on your podcast, right? Even though I definitely wasn't qualified. But like I listen especially to like Daukei's podcast, and also the recent one with your cousin
Alice.
I forgot her. Alice Lohel, right?
Yeah.
Like those were like really awesome podcasts to listen to, and it's also again from like from an Islander's perspective, from a Tongan's perspective, right? And it's also like the host is also a Tongan as well, so it's like this really cool thing of I didn't like even think about like a majority of what Daukei and your cousin Alice was talking about, but it was really cool to have that just on your podcast and to listen to, and it's free, and it's like,
and it's free,
cool information,
and it comes down to access as well, and anyone can access it. You know, I mean, I appreciate that, you know, because it's exactly what the aim was for.
Sorry,
you know,
you're
gonna keep interrupting me, boy.
No, but I just want to say one more thing.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Really good at interviews as well. I was so shocked at how natural you are at this. I was so shocked that like, yeah, this is like your first, like even your first episode, like with just you and Hone. It was insane how good you were at like talking and listening and not interrupting people.
Oh man, I appreciate it. And you know what? That's a common thing people say. Like, man, Gio, I didn't realize you were as smart as you're presenting yourself on a podcast. But to be fair, because I obviously I work in mental health as a community mental health nurse, and the majority of my job is about assessment. And with assessment, it comes down to asking a lot of questions, trying to tease out certain answers, and in a way investigating to try to get to the bottom of someone's mental state, someone's day-to-day life, what their issues are. Because in mental health, people are not going to outright tell you what is going on for them, you know? So it's working at it, asking certain questions, building rapport, you know, trying to let them see that you're on their side. And I think that's where I get sort of a little bit of I'm very comfortable talking to people now. Like, I've always been very loud, as you know. I've always been very loud. I talk a lot of shit back in the day for good fun, because good for good fun. But now I've learned. I feel like talking a lot about me when we should be talking about you. But
no, we need to talk about you as well, man.
What I've learned over my coming up to like 5 years now working in mental health is that it's talking, being able to talk shit can be very helpful as long as you've got a focus and a purpose and what you're trying to achieve. Well, as before, I was just like shooting the breeze, going with whatever the fuck the conversation was about. And a podcast also, it allows me to work on focusing on questioning other things. And plus, trust me, interviewing other people is much more easier than doing a mental health assessment with someone who doesn't want to talk to you. It's so much it's so much nicer having people agree that are happy to talk to me, because honestly, it's
well, that's probably why you're so good at it, because you have to try to think of how to get something out of someone. Because they're unwilling to talk to you. You have to strategize of what to say. I think that's why you're so good at it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And hopefully, I don't get worse as as things progress.
Dude,
moving forward.
No, you're killing at this podcast.
Oh man, I appreciate that. I really do. It does make me feel like I'm not just pissing around. I mean, because I really enjoy doing this, and I do encourage anyone who enjoys talking to other people, especially if you're PI, make a podcast. It's free. You don't need expensive equipment. All you need is, even a phone. You can record.
No, that's what I heard.
You just do a podcast, because what is important is capturing those conversations that everyone has, that talks about serious issues. And for some people, it's you're shooting the breeze at Fight Cover. You're doing all these things, but underneath all of that, people do have very in-depth, robust discussions about certain issues that plague our community, and part of doing this podcast was to try and highlight that as best as possible. Hence why I'm having people like you on, because you are thinking about these issues.
Yeah.
And who would have guessed? Yes. If we go back to high school, right? And sorry to keep sort of, I apologize to everyone listening about us jumping from topic to topic, but this is sort of how we usually,
there's no rules.
There's no rules, and if you don't like it, you can go fuck yourself.
But this is what I love about podcasts as well, is because unlike a 10-minute section or a 5-minute section on the radio or something, we can go into depth about whatever discussions we have, and there's no rules as to whether or not you did a bad thing, you shouldn't mention that or stuff like that. But am I mistaken? Is that there's not that many Pacific Islander podcasts out there, is there?
There's a few. There's a few, but I haven't. I found these podcasts purely from doing a quick search. There's one, and I almost mentioned them on every podcast. They're gonna think I'm brown nosing, which I kind of am. But there's one called Back of the 135. They're very, very good. They have a lot of interesting guests and interesting conversations. You have one.
I gotta check them out.
Yeah. There is one called Untouched Spaces. Is 3 PI ladies that talk about issues that relate to Pacific Islanders growing up in New Zealand. Very interesting. They have a lot of good insight into that side of things. Oh God, there's so many. I wish I actually had a list so I can sort of talk about them.
I want to ask you for a list, because
I'll give you a list.
Majority of my podcasts that I have is just
white.
As much as I love white people, it's so white. It's really
I love me some white people. Love me some white people. No, but I mean, they're interesting. I mean, they are interesting. But every now and then you do want to hear a podcast about something you can really relate to. I love listening to Joe Rogan. I can't relate to Joe Rogan though. This guy's a multi-millionaire that lives in thing, and he interviews crazy.
He's going to Spotify.
Sorry,
he's going to Spotify.
That makes sense. I'm surprised he wasn't in Spotify before. But yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of podcasting. You can do whatever the hell you want. You make the rules. I think the downside, it comes with, I guess, sponsorship. So with sponsorship, obviously they're going to give you certain parameters that you have to abide by if you agree to it. So that's a bit unfortunate. Is that if you want to make any sort of living doing a podcast, sponsorship is the way to go. You can only make so much, I guess, through donations. And I'm not looking to make money off this podcast. I wouldn't mind.
Well,
I wouldn't mind doing
in a few years.
Well, in all honesty, the way that I'm looking at this podcast is that I've stopped putting pressure on myself to release an episode very often. I mean, before I tried to release an episode every week. But the reality is that I still work full time. I have 2 kids that and a wife, and as enjoyable as it is, and I do enjoy doing this podcast, it's really difficult to sort of put yourself in a space to sort of do one. I'm sure a lot of other people do it, but speaking for myself in particular, it's a little bit it's a little bit much. But I'm hoping to at least release a podcast every month, at least every month. Every 1 to 2 podcasts every month to me is more than doable. So
also, it's a pandemic. You guys are going through a pandemic at the moment, so you guys have cases of coronavirus. We don't.
Yes.
So
well, we're actually pretty good.
Like stuff as well.
We're actually pretty good at the moment. I think today we've had 0 cases, and yesterday was like 1 case. So we're sort of floating between 0 to 1 cases. So we're not going too bad. I'm seeing a positive positive move in the future.
Yeah, that's really I'm really happy that New Zealand is not doing as horrible as like Italy or America. Or
good. Well, I think I sort of mentioned it in the previous podcast with Hone where we talked about lockdown, but I wasn't necessarily a Labour supporter, but I believe
Auntie Cindy did a good job.
Auntie Cindy, I do believe, but I do believe with what was presented to her at the time with the pandemic, I do believe that putting the country into lockdown was the right answer, and the numbers speak for itself.
Yep.
The numbers speak for itself, and we are now down to level 2. I can't remember how long we've been at level 2 now in terms of lockdown. And
so you guys? Sorry.
No. So at the moment we're at level 2, and I can slowly see, especially out of West Auckland, people's confidence. People's confidence of coming back out into the world and trying to get back on track with doing things, even something as simple as going down to the store. People are starting to move to something that's loosely resembles normality. So that's a cool thing. Yeah.
So were you guys allowed to, like, how bad was it? Like, how badly did it affect you guys? Because over here we went for like I think a month without being allowed to leave your house for anything but to buy
groceries and
goods
stuff
from stores.
Yeah. So that was us in level 4. So oh God, I'm gonna make a guess, maybe like 7-8 weeks ago, possibly. We were locked down into level 4. So level 4 was basically no one was allowed to leave their place, like you guys, unless you're going for the essentials, which is going to the doctors, to ED, to get food. I think that was about it. You weren't allowed to go and see people. You weren't allowed to even do basically anything. It was an unprecedented event where the entire country was shut down. Stores were closed. Everything was shut down. It was really weird. So then we did that for a while, moved down to level 3, where roughly the same as level 4, but they've loosened up sort of the restrictions. There's more stores are opening up. People are allowed to go on longer walks and things like that. A little bit more freedom. And level 2 at the moment now is really good. Almost everything is back open. People are allowed to go out. You're allowed to mingle, I think, with up to 10 people max with whatever you're doing. So, I think, the restrictions are slowly being loosened, and people are responding quite well to it. And New Zealand, very luckily is not like the States where they're protesting that everything needs to be open now. This and that, and people literally protesting outside with guns, demanding that the economy be reopened. America.
Yeah, but I mean, I hate playing devil's advocate, especially for the protesters, but I do understand where they're coming from because they're making $0 and stuff like that, right? So they have a family to feed, they have mortgages to pay, they also have they have all these issues and stuff like that, but they want to go back to work. But this is what's happening when the government doesn't give them any sort of assistance, like trying to work with them, because UK and Canada, they're doing pretty good by trying to help the people as much by giving them some money and stuff like that. But yeah, I definitely can understand why they're protesting, but it's really it's a bad picture to see people protesting. It just looks like they don't care about anyone else and stuff like that. So, but yeah,
it doesn't come as a surprise to me, to be honest. It doesn't come as a surprise whatsoever that America is doing this right now. You make very valid points, and I agree with those points. Is that it's much more complicated than slowing down a pandemic, because the pandemic, it will disappear. They will find a vaccine eventually. I mean, it just comes down to timing. I do believe that. I do believe that they will find a vaccine.
I heard this in a podcast. Do you know what was the quickest vaccine developed, ever made? How quick? What was the fastest vaccine that was ever made for virus or whatever?
For virus, I would say maybe 6 to 8 months, something like that.
No, 4 years, and it was the mumps.
How long ago was that? How long ago was that?
It was in the 1970s, 80s.
Yeah. So,
Ebola was a few years ago. I mean, not a few years. It was a while ago, right? We still don't have a vaccine for Ebola.
True. These are very true, but I don't think Ebola turned into a pandemic.
Yeah, I think there is yeah.
I mean, this is very unlike me, which is being an optimist. Anyone who knows me and who's listened to the podcast, I'm more of a realist, and I'm air quoting this.
Yeah.
I'm more of a realist, and people say that, no, you're not a realist. You just always think in the negative. No, I'm a realist, but you just have to look at where we are now in terms of technology, and I think we are in a good space because it affects not just one country, it affects multiple countries. Let's be real. When Ebola came out, no one gave two rats' asses because it was in Africa. Let's be real about that, right? And that's why it wasn't put on as a priority. Whatever. You can tell me this and that, but the reality is it was in Africa. People didn't really pay too much attention because if you can't see it, it's not a big issue. I think with the coronavirus or COVID-19, it's a pandemic. Every major country in the world has experienced this virus, so it's in their best interest. It's in their best interest to find a vaccine for this, So this is why I'm a little bit more hopeful for it. I believe that because it affects the world, that everyone will be working to I mean, in a weird way, it is bringing the world together. But I think they're doing it for selfish reasons. Which is fine by me as long as they make a fucking vaccine very soon.
I hope. Yeah,
that's my view on it.
Yeah.
So
I really do hope there's a vaccine that comes out soon, because I don't think without a vaccine, I'm not sure people will be even traveling to other countries, let alone people going to America, where there's still I think the last time I saw was 1.2 million cases that they had so far.
Yeah,
and it's still increasing per day.
Yeah, I haven't even caught up with America lately. I've been just caught up with what happened in New Zealand, which is all positive stuff. So that's a good thing.
Yes,
but yeah, I mean, but New Zealand is very different to America. America is
350 million people.
Yeah,
I think
and if you think about it, the total population of New Zealand equates to what? A minor city, a minor city in the States. And if you just think of the amount of cities there is, it's a much more bigger issue. Not to mention the political issues that also are in America, with each state being able to govern themselves, and whether the federal governments will override them. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that as an outsider we don't really understand completely about how America is run. And in a way, I mean, I think there's a lot of polls out at the moment, and this is before COVID, and I don't know who I was talking to about, but if you had to talk about who are the most freest countries in the world, America does stand quite high up there in terms of personal liberties and freedom. And this is what it does. If you're looking for freedom and, the truest form of freedom, it's not equality. Freedom, the truest form of freedom is not going to give you equality. It's going to give you this, So they're only doing what they know, which is my rights are being impeded on, which it is. Their civil liberties are being are being impeded on, and America has always been known for fighting for their quote unquote freedoms. So I think it's like I said, I wasn't even surprised in the slightest that this is what's happening. I was just surprised it took this long for them to actually get out and start protesting with their guns.
Dude, I was so surprised when I saw that. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Yeah,
wow.
No, I was so. And then it was just like protest after protest, and there was this there's actually an investigation to these things because some people are saying those protests are astroturfing.
What's that?
So as opposed to grassroots movements, they're like fake grassroots movement, and so it's like again they're trying to say like there's they're funded by these either Republican people or like Russians and stuff like that. They want to see like chaos kind of ensue.
Oh God, yeah.
The
conspiracy theories are starting to rise. Yeah.
So I this is from like the New York Times. So I'm not like just going some conspiracy stuff. Like they're trying to show that there's a correlation between like people that want to try to. There's people with interests for the economy to come back because they're losing money at this moment. So they're trying to like fund these little like because those protests you see them like there's only like a few hundred people, right? But a few hundred people, if you put it on video, it looks like a lot of people. Like majority of Americans, there's a poll like 70% of them agreed that they should have stay-at-home orders, right? But if you just like get like 100 people, like let's just say there's 1,000 people that are protesting in America, right? That's 1,000 people out of 320 million people. So it's this very like they are showing these images of people protesting and stuff, but like a large chunk of Americans do want to, stay at home and stuff like that. So it's just really interesting stuff.
Like I said earlier, I think it's a little bit more complicated than people realize. It's a little bit more than just trying to manage a pandemic. And we kind of got sidetracked with what I wanted to say earlier.
I know, yeah.
So
let's.
I think people don't. I don't know. I'm sure people do. I keep saying people may not realize. People do, right? People do. There's a lot of people that realize that there is possibly something worse than the pandemic of COVID-19, and that's the economy collapsing. I think there will be a lot more social issues, let's say, with the economy collapsing as compared to a lockdown rule with COVID-19, which seems to be more of a medical issue than anything else. And listen, I can't tell the future. Every time I try to predict the future, it always ends up being the complete opposite. I mean, but I think there needs to be a balance. So that's the issue for me. I see both sides. I mean, I work in the in healthcare. I understand the need for people to stay home and social distancing. I understand all that, but at the same time, I understand that the country's economy needs to keep running. People need jobs. People need money to survive. There's no way around that. The government can't provide, benefits for the entire population. I'm talking about New Zealand in particular here.
Did they provide any money for you guys?
Yeah, they did. They did. So New Zealand's very lucky that they increased benefits. They sort of dropped certain restrictions for getting a benefit, which in my opinion was more of a political stunt. Our government leaders took a pay cut. I can't remember what the percentage was, but I think it was a significant one, like 20% or something like that. I could be lying, but they took a pay cut to help pay for these things, which I could be wrong. They could be doing it for altruistic purposes, and they're just really good people. But they're the government. They always have it's always a move, and so I think there needs to be a balance. I think the issue I see at the moment, and I see a lot of issues, trust me. I tend to see more issues than solutions, which may be a problem. But The issue I see.
You're being a realist.
Yeah, I'm just being a realist, man. Just leave me be. But the issue that I see is that one side is saying stay home, the other side is saying restart the economy, but there's no balance. There's no compromise from each side, which I think is the more important issue. I think both sides are correct, but there needs to be some middle ground that they can both meet and actually get shit done. So that to me would be the next step. Is finding that middle ground and helping the country move forward. And that could work for every single country out there, in my opinion, anyway. As little...
it's a good...
As least respected as it is after this podcast. But,
yeah.
But
that's
what I think.
It's a good trial run for, an actual, really... this COVID-19 thingy, if it takes a few days to, detect and stuff like that. But, could you imagine if it was, as bad as Ebola, where you just, as soon as you get it, you're dead. There's no coming back from it and stuff.
In a way, it's easier to see a quick onset of symptoms because you'll be able to identify them early. The issue with diseases and viruses like COVID is that the incubation time is quite long, and with any virus, the very beginning stages of the infection is when you're most infectious and you're usually asymptomatic. So that's what's dangerous about this, is that you could have it be walking around like a complete dickhead and have no idea you're spreading the virus yourself. So that's one of the issues when it comes to COVID. But I think look at previous pandemics and issues that's happened in the world. You just had to look at things like the Spanish flu, that fucked people so bad. And people say this is
people died.
Oh God, the Spanish flu, it killed off a significant percentage of the world population. So. So when people say, "Oh, we've never had a virus this bad," it's like, well, we have. It's just that now we do have the technology and the communication with different countries where we're able to contain it a lot more better. So, I think, people love the whole. People love to catastrophize everything, but I think, I think having a positive mindset with these things, as I said again, very unlike me, is going to be the best way forward. So
I'm glad New Zealand is doing good.
Yeah, and trust me, I'm glad Tonga, knock on wood, remains COVID free.
Oh yeah, we still haven't got a case.
Yeah, so I think because you can just look, God, not to sort of dwell on COVID more, but just look at the measles epidemic that sort of unfortunately Samoa had to go through not too long ago. Can you so if you look at that, measles is a well-known disease there's already a vaccine for it, and yet look at the devastation it did in Samoa. Can you imagine if COVID had hit Tonga?
Oh, dude.
Not
and especially because our culture is we greet each other by kissing each other on the cheek and stuff like that. We're very close quarters with a lot of our family members and stuff.
Yeah.
Tonga also has a high rate of obesity in this country, so those are the people that's that could be affected. A lot of people that are dying from this are actually obese. So there was just a lot of different things that were happening that I was man, if it hits Tonga, man,
it'll be devastating. It'll be absolutely devastating. So everyone who's been praying their asses off and really working, props to everyone who worked to sort of keep things stable in Tonga in healthcare and government. Whoever you guys are, you guys did. You're doing a pretty good job, and that's a lot coming from me.
Yeah.
My listen. I enjoy my opinion. That's probably the only person who enjoys my opinion. But I do think you need to give credit where credit's due. Whoever had run with managing the COVID response in Tonga must have been doing a decent job, because there's 0 cases.
Dude.
So very lucky. We said we weren't going to talk about COVID that much because it's been overdone.
Okay.
No. No, it's worth talking about for sure.
Yeah, and it's sorry. This will probably be the last thing I talk about. But yeah, it's even they even had to make the hard decision of closing the borders even to citizens, because Like we wouldn't, like at the moment where we didn't allow them, like because we didn't have any place to like put them in if they got here, because there were people that were coming into the country where we told them to self isolate, but I don't know how effective that was. But so it's like this, like now they're like in the time that they've closed the borders to now, they've had time to prepare like a facility for people that do come into the country, like citizens
for isolation. Yeah,
we have a place to actually let them self isolate and stuff like that. So I think we might be opening the border. The last I heard might be in like mid-June for people to come in, but that'll be like with the understanding that you'll have to self isolate at that. Thing.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not self isolate. We're gonna isolate for you for the benefit of people.
Just send them to Hotoitoli, man. Just you can isolate there. No. I mean, no. I think whatever changes that any country makes moving forward from now, especially if you're a country that's experienced little to no cases of COVID, it still needs to be very careful moving forward, because who knows? Like I said, this is one of those very tricky sort of viruses that you're asymptomatic for a good, I think, up to 9 days. They say up to 9 days of no symptoms. So
and again, like people live with other members of their family, and some of those members of their family are either obese or they're elderly people.
Yeah.
So like those are the like people that will be affected. So I'm really glad that we don't have any cases so far. So yeah,
that's good. No, I'm super happy about that. I'm super happy about that. We've diverted greatly from our initial.
I'm so sorry.
No, you don't need to apologize. This is the whole point of a podcast. We just keep talking, and then we segue back to
People are already like turned off. I don't even think people are listening. They're like, dude, we listen to many stuff about COVID-19. We don't need two idiots talking about coronavirus.
Yeah, but I don't know whether they get an opinion from people who you live in Tonga, and B, a Tongan living in New Zealand. I think it's. I mean, they'll be. Even if they're not interested, like I said, they can go fuck themselves. I don't care. I don't need people to listen to this podcast, because I enjoy doing them, and I will continue to do them as long as I enjoy it.
So as long as you enjoy it, bro.
As long as I enjoy it, And listen, let's segue back a little bit to your documentary, right? Because really, I do want to highlight your documentary, because it is very, very good. Regardless of what you say, I think it's very, very good. So we talked about the challenges that you face, and you talked about the translation and all that stuff. But what were some of the highlights? I mean, what did you enjoy doing when you're doing the documentary?
The parts I enjoyed a lot was the interview parts. So there was a lot of things that even I didn't know. So like I'm saying now that like after doing the short documentary and stuff, that where there were a lot of issues that even I didn't see. So that was the part that I actually really enjoyed, was the interviewing part. That even my second short, I even liked that part where I was actually interviewing subject matter, right? So the interview always is the best part of my of doing the short documentaries, because that's the part where I get to learn like different things that I never even thought of. The hard part for me is just the post production of it, like the editing it. So that's the part I really hate.
Yeah, the post production. I mean, like I said early in the podcast, I think before I started recording, was that I don't like editing whatsoever.
Yeah.
I mean, like my editing would be simple as, be cutting out certain bits here and there, or making it, cutting out the silences, which I don't think is a lot in this podcast. But it's just one of those things that it's just, I don't see myself doing that, because I probably don't do it really well. I'd love for someone else to do it, but no one's going to do it for free. But it's it's an important aspect, and I'm talking about documentaries in general, because this is where you start to almost start to shape the documentary, right? You start to sort of put in certain scenes that sort of highlight this, or this interview goes well with this, because you did do a very good, a great job actually. In for the editing side of things. I mean, when you posted it up for the first time, I was like, what the fuck is this? What is this? And because you did that ad first, right? You did a very short, like 1 or 2 minute preview of the documentary, and it was like, the beginning was the ping pong bouncing back and forth, and I was like, is Josh into ping pong now? What's going on here? But it piqued my interest. Definitely. It's one of those things where it's like, straight away the noise is a familiar noise, right? It's anyone who can hear, shout out to all the deaf people too, but anyone who could hear, knows the sound of the ping pong ball on a ping pong table, for some reason that drew me, and I was like, oh, what's this about? And then and as it started to show a little bit more about the people that you're going to be interviewing and everything, it definitely, anyone who cares about the underlying social issues in any country would be interested in your documentary. And I do mean that. I think we've said it, and we may have overstated it now. The untold stories of these people is very inspiring. It's actually made me realize how lazy I am as a person, to be honest.
What do you mean?
Like, these people with their disabilities are managing to live their life to the fullest. Not only that, so they're athletes as well, aren't they? I mean, some of them are.
Some of them are athletes.
Some of them are athletes. So these people who, in all intents and purposes, have it, they've been dealt a shit hand at life, shall we say. And this is just from an observational, don't know jack shit about them as a person sort of view. But then the stories that they tell you about how they end up this way or how they ended up that way, and the perseverance that they need to sort of get on with their life and to compete at a professional level at sports, is very inspiring. And I don't think it's highlighted enough.
Yeah, sorry. Even the dude Ofena, he's visually impaired, but he got himself through high school and stuff, and now he's in university, studying in USP right now. So, I mean, that's already difficult because, especially, like, I'm not sure what USP is like with in regards to people that are studying there that are visually impaired, but yeah, that's next. Like, just studying like with sight is already difficult enough. Like,
studying with sight.
I know, like studying like with the visual impairment, that's just like next level. So yeah,
like I said, it's very inspiring. So like you look at these. And not only do you highlight some of the social stuff that happened in Tonga, but it's also a very inspiring story about how, hard work and perseverance can pay off. And it's a lesson that everyone should learn. I mean, it's awesome. It's an awesome documentary. It's an awesome experience. I think you've done an amazing job making that documentary, and it's a documentary.
I'll send you the $100 that I owe you,
bro. That's 200. What the hell are you talking about? 200 paanga, brother. I'll send you my account. No. But I do mean this. I do mean it. And anyone who has ever thought about the social injustices of living in a small island like Tonga, and have no idea about the day-to-day life that these people with disabilities have, you need to look at, watch this documentary, because you are a person who is lived in Tonga all of their lives. You did have that stint in China as well, in the States, but you did. You have lived your life mostly in China, so you're controlling the narrative of what your documentary is, and it's coming from someone who's Tongan, who lives in Tonga, making a documentary about disabled people and athletes who live in Tonga. And I think that's a very important distinction to make, because I mean, listen, there's documentaries and a half about Tonga by Balangese and people from people from overseas, and they do a good job, but they don't capture I feel that they don't capture the exact essence of who we are as a people. Yeah.
So did you hear about that article that came on The Guardian, the real life of the Lord of the Flies and stuff like that?
Yeah, about those Tongan boys who were actually stuck on that island. Yeah.
So like I haven't read it, but I am interested to read and stuff. But this is like one of those issues where it's like that guy, when he was writing the article, I heard that he never used the last names of the boys, nor did he use their Tongan name. He used their English version of the name, the Anglican version of the name.
Yeah.
He also has the rights to their lives. So now he's like trying to the 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 biographer, I think his name is Rucker or something. But like it's this weird thing where it's like a Balangi dude. He has the life rights to these 6 young men that are Tongan. He also like wrote that article that's what I think is from a very like white person perspective and stuff.
A foreigner's perspective.
Yeah, a foreigner's perspective and stuff. And it's also like I even saw there was one ABC video, and they were talking about like, oh, it's the like these 6 boys that got stranded in an island, and they were like trying to interview to talk about like what were the experiences of the young men that were going that stuff. They interviewed the guy who saved like who like the captain of the boat that came and saved them. They didn't interview the men like who were on the island. This is an ABC video. I was like, what the you guys are talking about the real life Lord of the Flies again, and the real life Lord of the Flies. That's like I don't even they weren't killing each other and stuff like that. So why would you say real life Lord of the Flies?
Exactly.
Like that's not like
exactly.
You should not use that like that title and stuff like that. But yeah, that ABC video, I was just like, man, you guys are doing a story on 6 dudes who were in an island and survived for like 15 months, and you guys interviewed the captain who saved them. What the
makes
hell?
No sense. It makes absolute zero sense to me. That makes no sense. I did hear about this how long ago? A couple of weeks, I think, ago when the article first broke. I haven't seen that ABC documentary or short about it or interview at the moment.
It's like 4 minutes, and it's just like they just interviewing the dude. I was just watching in disbelief. I was like, and also like you can't make the argument that it was because the Tongan dudes couldn't speak English. The captain himself said when he first met them, they got on board and they spoke in perfect English and said we're the dudes that you're looking for, like we've been stranded on this island.
God.
So it's another thing where it's like this. Stupid
how long ago was that? I mean, that was still black and white sort of interviews, wasn't it? Was it quite a?
No, this was like recent.
Like how long ago was
the interview?
Was the interview?
Yeah, no, this was recent.
But I mean, the boys that survived on the island, are they still around, or is most of them passed away?
Oh no, dude, no. There's one that's still around.
Okay.
I think.
Okay. There's
there's like.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I'm getting confused. I thought this was an interview shortly after they were found. You know.
No.
Okay, so this is like a recent interview, going with the hype of everything at the moment. Yeah, because like I said, I got wind of this this article, and there's articles everywhere at the moment now about it, and
I've read like 7 million times.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's even Taika Waititi even tweeted out about it, you know, saying that he hopes that the rights to this film should actually go, you know, preferably to a Tongan filmmaker, you know, and not to name names, but maybe you should put your name forward for it. You know?
No. I'm very like inexperienced. Again, as much as I do want to be like a film director, this is a huge story. Like, I think
it'd be cool if you can get on board though. At least watch how it's made.
Like, is that her last name?
Who?
So they're the director of For My Father's Kingdom. She's directed a few shorts before, and she's also directing a short that's coming up and stuff. I think she'd be a perfect candidate to direct this film. For me, I'm still like really lacking experience. I do want to like just keep trying to make like shorts and stuff. I haven't even made a short like film, so I do want to like get there eventually one day. But if someone else, like if another, even Alice Lolo, your cousin, she's already done like a few shorts and stuff like that. There's other people there that's more qualified than me. At the moment, I would love to do it because I went and watched like. There's a short documentary that they released shortly after the rescue of them, and it was like a 24-minute video. It's really cool because I thought that you can't actually make a drama out of this, simply because there's no like people killing each other and stuff like that, right? So it's this really weird, like they just survived in an island and you know they got rescued. But when I watched the 24-minute documentary, it was actually really interesting and very like you could actually make a dramatic movie out of it because the story was we're trying to run away from Hawaii to go to Fiji, but then their boat got stranded in that place. And then in the beginning, they were like they were eating birds raw because they didn't know how to make a fire. And then like a few months after, they like one of the dudes were like, oh, okay, we're gonna be stuck here, so we might as well try to learn how to do stuff. So they were like, they learned how to make fire. They even like, what's it called? They even like there was some chickens or something like that on the island, and then they like started raising chickens. I think they got to like 100 chickens or something like that. So it's really cool. Like, and then there was like even moments where like they were like fighting with each other, and instead of like killing each other to the death, that one they would like separate from the group and just go away for like a day or two, and then so it's this really cool thing where I think there's a lot of cool like narratives of like this is that Tongan like cultural thing where it's like we kind of come together to work together as opposed to like only thinking of things economically. But there's this very like reciprocal aspect to the Tongan culture where it's like we try to work together and stuff. So I think that it could be made into a really good movie.
Yeah,
I just don't think.
No, I mean, definitely. I mean, if Hollywood can make a movie about Twilight, I'm sure they can make a movie about nothing on Twilight. I enjoy me a good, I enjoy me a couple movies of Twilight myself. But yes. But I'm sure there is. My fear would be is that they, because Hollywood does have this long-standing history of stretching the truth slightly with films based on true events, that they may not portray it for how it was. I mean, people are relating it to Lord of the Flies, and sounding from what you've explained so far, it's nothing like Lord of the Flies.
No.
There wasn't a change in hierarchy, and they were murdered. People killed each other and things like that. It sounded like they found a way to survive as a collective, and they managed to organize themselves in a way where they survived. 15 months or something like
months.
that. I mean that. Regardless of who you are, that's a feat in itself. That's over a year living on an island.
More than a year. And I think the Lord of the Flies, like that theme is like people are inherently bad inside because given to like if you leave people to their own device, they'll start to like create hierarchies just within themselves and want to kill each other and stuff like that because it's just like a very lawless type of thing, right? That's the Lord of the Flies. That
turns it on its head, eh?
Yeah, exactly. So I think. And also, like, it'll be a good introduction into, like, Tongan culture, I think, that story. So I do think that there is a good story there. It's just,
I definitely think there's a good story there. I just hope whoever does it, fingers crossed, it is a Tongan or Pacific Islander director or Tongan director, to me would be perfect. But I do hope they stick to as pure to the story as possible. I think that'll be ideal because it could highlight a lot of cool stuff that these guys went through. That it's a story worth telling at the end of the day. So
and it shows that people are not inherently bad. That there is some good in.
I mean, speaking of human nature and all that stuff, I think they related it to the only thing that they could, which was Lord of the Flies, and. That's a story of exactly as you say, how people are inherently bad, and if left to their own devices, anarchy ensues, or it's either anarchy ensues or dictatorship or stuff like that. So, and I'm happy to know that that was white people and brown people tend to just work together and enjoy each other's company. Instead.
But I think. Because we have to, because we live so close to each other in like those quarters, and we don't have like we're not like that rich of a society that we can afford to like live in our own houses and like be separate from family and stuff like that. So you have to like if you're in close quarters with your family members and stuff like that, you have to try to figure out a way to live with each other without wanting to kill the other person. So it's this very
I agree. So I agree and disagree with you on that one. I agree that as a within Tongan society, we do tend to sort of migrate to living together, close quarters. There's not often do you see children move away from their parents' homes. They stay there for a decent amount of time until their 30s or they get married and start their own life. But I don't think we're forced to. I think as a society we choose to do that. I think we have learned that We've learned to care for our family. We've learned to care for our elders, and that I think that comes down to a lot of factors, but a lot of it is respect. Whaapa as as the Tongans would say. And I think it comes down to our values. We value people, we value family, we value what this person has done for us, which has allowed us to become who we are now as people. So it comes down to our value system at the end of the day. And I think, like I said, I agree and disagree with you on that part, but the part I disagree is that I don't think we're forced to. I think we've learned and agreed upon and choose to support and live in this kind of way. And I think it's only been since I'm not going to say Tonga was colonized. Tonga was colonized in a really weird way. We were colonized through religion rather than by force. Which is a good depending on where you sit on the fence of whether you believe in God religion or not. It could have been a good thing or a bad thing.
I see positive and negative from it. The big positive for me is like, because we've had religion, we're not straight up like killing each other and stuff like that. We have someone that there's a figure that is more powerful than us. And
are you saying our morality comes from religion?
Not. I'm
trying to set you up here. I'm trying to set you up.
No, I'm not saying that like countries that are not religion, like that there's not that much people that has religion in it, that there's some countries in Europe that like are thriving and their like religious demographics are pretty low, but I think just specifically for Tonga, like we're like a warrior society. Like
absolutely.
There's like big dudes just like walking around and they can rip each other with their bare arms and stuff. But I think with the introduction of Christianity, in my point of view, that positive is that like it does kind of like try to teach us that there's someone more greater than us, and so like we try to refrain from like our basic instinct of wanting to kill each other.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm going to start the premise that I grew up in a Catholic household, and I do count myself as religious. I do believe in God. I'm not as devout as I should be, but that's my own issue to sort of deal with. But I think what happened was, if I remember correctly from our history classes that I barely attended, is that our King George I used religion to unify Tonga. So that was one of the biggest things that allowed, because like you said, Tongan society. If you look at any sort of readings, you read any sort of not biographies, but descriptions of Europeans who came through to Tonga, like in the early years during our civil wars, that Tongans were ruthless, man.
There was like massacres and stuff.
Absolutely
like that.
Ruthless. You know, almost Game of Thrones like scenarios. You know, my dad loves. For the life of me, I can't remember what the name of the book, but it's about Ukalala, the original Ukalala, who from Vava'u. God, I hope I'm saying this right, because someone's gonna hit me up and say that I don't know jack shit. But I'm obviously summarizing everything. But then my dad is really into his history, and he talked to me about how this guy Ukalala used to have massive wars with all these different chiefs and stuff like that, and he invited them all. He under the guise of wanting to start peace, he invited them all for a gava ceremony, and said, no men allowed. It's just no soldiers allowed. Just us. We'll have a talk. We'll have a talk at this gava ceremony, and then hopefully broker some peace. All these chiefs came in, and guess what? Suckers. He wasn't there for peace, and apparently there were soldiers waiting for them inside the fale and beat the shit out of them.
Right.
I don't know if they killed them, but they gave them that's some major Game of Thrones shit. You know what I mean? So I think we have grown up as a warrior society. Like most places. And when King George managed to unite Tongans, and he became I think he was labeled the first king of Tonga. He united us even more stronger under God. Through religion. And there's always that saying is that he gave God to Tonga and Tonga to God, and that's what sparked off like how strong a religion. And if you look at islanders in general, they have very strong faith, very very strong faith, and that's one of those positive things that's happened with religion. It's not, it didn't give us morality, but what it did was give us the sense that there were things much more bigger than us, which I think played very well into how we had organized our society at the time, So it's good. It's a good thing, I'm sorry for those atheists out there who are sort of shaking their head and saying no, it's not. I was like, you have your right to believe what you want. I mean, that's you, man. I ain't gonna hold you down. You do what you like.
Yeah.
So you also, we kind of, and I'm gonna highlight this again for anyone, and we'll talk about where we can find these documentaries after coming to the close. But I think everyone who listens to this should definitely go and have a look at Joshua's documentary, the Lau Lava. So. And we'll talk about where we can find that coming to the end. But you also did a second one. You got so into your first documentary that you decided to do a second one. And you called that Lotalahi. Did you have similar aspirations or aims for this one, or was this were you trying to go down a different route?
No. So because I was only in Tonga for a month because I was gonna head back to Australia to spend time with my partner, and so I only had 1 month to think of like a next video to make.
Right.
And so that's why I wanted to, because I was talking to Lani. She's like she's the daughter of one of my mates, and then I was just talking to her and stuff like that, and I heard her story. I was like, I think this will be a good story to, like, I do want my platform to talk about societal issues here in Tonga, but I also want, like, if there are any highlights that that Tongan people have to offer and stuff like that, I also want to like highlight that thing. I don't want it to just be simply like to do with societal issues. If there's something really cool about Tonga, I want to like highlight it. So especially with Lani, like in the short, like I was just describing how she doesn't have any facilities to train like formally in, but she just uses the sea and stuff like that. So there are some issues that she's run into just training in the ocean. But like, it's just, for me, it was just like pretty inspiring to, like, even though she doesn't have much, that doesn't really stop her, because a normal person would be like, oh, I don't have the formal training to do this one thing, so I might as well just stop. But she's just like, for her, it's just like she just wants to do it regardless of the situation she's in. But it was also for like me. I was kind of like, I kind of saw like myself in it as well, because I have no formal training in any of these like filmmaking aspects, even like the thing I'm doing now with photography and stuff like that. But it's not gonna, like, if I just see something where like I don't have formal training or something like that, I'm not just gonna say I'm not gonna do it and then just like try to find something else that's like more easier to do or something like that.
Right.
So yeah. So that's why I created that short documentary.
I mean that documentary shows again, resilience and hard work really does get you places. And I think it does highlight for me what that documentary, because the documentary basically about a young Tongan girl whose aspirations is to compete competitively in swimming. And what that highlights to me is one of the issues that every Pacific sports team faces: the lack of support, lack of funding, lack of facilities, and then we're told that you need to compete with countries who sink millions, our GDP worth, Tonga's GDP into people's sports,
I know, dude.
And I don't know who's to blame. Is it should the government be working more on allocating funds, this and there? But I think it's really telling about how difficult it is to be a sports person and play for Tonga,
I think. Yeah. Sorry. Go on.
No, I'll say, and I think we still punch above our weight. I mean, every so often we have a union team that goes to the World Cup, and we surprise people. You know, we beat teams
the
like
league,
France.
We beat Australia.
Listen, okay, so league is one of those things that absolutely highlights how devastating a Pacific team can be. Now, there's some caveats. There's some caveats to that because we all have to remember all these guys are trained overseas, right? They're trained in the facilities. They're trained and play at a professional level, which has contributed to them being so amazing. You know, I mean, you can one thing to be talented, another thing to sort of shape that talent into what it is, you know, in the future. But so that's the one caveat I have to that. But I still believe that these guys identify themselves as Tonga and want to play, you know, for the Tongan team, and look at how dominant they can be. It also highlights how much more we could do if we were given those facilities. If we were given those facilities, given those funding, and given those opportunities, it'll be a powerhouse. Not just Tonga. You're looking at Fiji. You know, you're looking at Samoa. You know, I mean, even the Cook Islands and stuff. If we were given the same opportunities, you know, as other, you know, big countries, I think people will be very surprised at how different things may turn out. And I think to a certain point, I think that's why we, for a long time, have not been given that opportunity because of the threat that they poses. Now, listen, I am a avid fan of every Pacific sports team. I don't follow them crazily. You know, like I don't freaking follow every single player and know their stats and know who they play for on the off season in Europe and all that stuff. But I do follow the international teams when it's time for international games. And League is one of those games where Tonga was nowhere, not even in the top 10. And now we're ranked third, second, or something like that.
This is a country of 100,000 people.
This is a country,
no less. Like we beat Australia, which has 25 million people.
Oh, we have to remember, most of those guys living in New Zealand and Australia. But that's neither here nor there. We're a small country that they don't get paid. By the way, let's remember that they get paid very little as compared to international players from New Zealand and Australia, and so we're playing more for pride, which I think is what's given us that extra edge. You know, is that we're a little country, you know, wanting to prove ourselves that we can, you know, run it with the big dogs. You know, which they do time and time again. You know, so your documentary definitely highlights what could be. You know, I mean, if Lani continues to persevere, you know, and if she manages to find herself a facility, you know, somewhere that can cater to their needs, I think a lot of people can go far. You know, I think they can. So that's you know, that documentary really highlights that, you know, and she's very young. I mean, how old is she?
So in the time I interviewed her, she was 16. But I mean, Lani is a straight up beast. Like she. Yeah. So it's
shout out to Lani, by the way.
Yeah, like she not only has to face the issues of not having proper facilities to train in, but she also has to face, like, if she's going to the ocean and stuff like that, people will mock her because she's there in her swimsuit to go and swim and stuff like that. So there are people like mocking her and stuff like that. There's even people that like sometimes say to her, "Why are you going swimming? Like, who the hell swims in Tonga and stuff like that?" I like competitively and stuff. So she's like, I think her, like, mentally she's like a really solid person. Like she's like, that's what I'm saying. Like she's a beast. Like,
would that be a minority? Would that be a majority or minority? Would that be the people who mock her and sort of do that? Would they be the minority, or would you reckon there'd be a majority of people who do
No,
it?
So she did try to emphasize that there was a majority of people that do support her. She does have a really good support system, but I think even if it was like a few people that were to say something bad to me about like, well, why are you doing this? Like, just stop and stuff like that. I think that would definitely get to me. And for her at a very young age, for her to be resilient and just like say, like, fuck it, I'm still gonna fucking swim. It doesn't matter. I think that's something that's really cool.
No, absolutely. If anything, people use that kind of pressure to drive them. You know, sometimes being told you can't do something is enough drive to prove them wrong. You know, so and it sounds like that's what she's doing. I guess I asked that question because I just was curious to know, you know, because I understand, Tongan society is a very conservative society. We don't, we sort of look sideways at people who wear, little dresses and mini skirts and stuff like that. I don't think there's a lot of people that wear bikinis to the beach, and that's a very westernized sort of dress sense, so. And with swimmers, they obviously have to wear, the swimsuit, which is
I know.
Which is
Tonga, we swim in like
we swim in long pants, man. We swim in jeans. We swim in jeans
and our
and t-shirts
shirts on.
God.
Yeah.
Just a segue from that a little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you remember the time we got in absolute hiding at the wharf after we had left? And
every time I
it's your
drive
fault.
by there or stuff like that, I always remember that.
It's your fault, hey? It was your fault. So okay, let me start the story. So one of the biggest pastimes in Tonga as a student was after school you go to the wharf and you swim. It's at the time it was a rundown wharf. I think Wafamelika, I think, wasn't it?
Yes.
It's a rundown wharf. People can go there freely, and you sort of can dive off the wharf into the ocean. And then you climb back up, and then people just hang out there. So it was after school we left, and everyone, we don't really bring change, so we kind of just swam in what we had then and there. But my story is that so we're there, our teachers roll up, which at the same time it's like why the hell did they roll up on us? It was after school, man. They rolled up on us, called us all in, and gave us a massive hiding for swimming after school.
For swimming,
which to this day I still don't make sense. But you know how they caught us? You were still wearing your school top.
Oh my goodness!
So they were driving.
They spotted us.
They spotted you, and we all and we all got a hiding for it.
You know what's messed up though? I've seen now that there's there's students.
Yeah.
They're swimming in their clothes.
Like nowadays. Uniform.
I'm like, you don't know the pain we went through.
You are so lucky. But every generation's going to say that, eh? It's like, we had it worse. True. Our parents will say,
back in my day,
I used to carry rocks to school. Why? Why were you carrying rocks to school? Because we had to. Like, that makes no sense, Granddad. Go to sleep. I mean, yeah, but yeah, sorry, that was just a segue, on that. But your documentary does highlight a lot of things that people need to think about, and it's very thought provoking. That's another thing about it. Talking about what she has to do and how she got into swimming. It's a very interesting conversation that you guys have with her, and the interview questions were very clear on how on how she ended up where she is now. Is she competing competitively at the moment?
Yeah, so she's been in a few competitions before. She's gone overseas and she's competed in a few competitions. She was looking to compete for a spot for the Olympics, but now that the Olympics is being delayed, I guess
that's been canned. I think next end of the year, isn't it?
Yeah, it'll be next year. So I guess she's training now to try to get a spot in the Olympics.
But, I think it's more time, though, eh? More time to train, which is good.
Huh?
More time to train, which is good.
Yeah, I think so. And she's won a few medals and stuff. So, again, it's just all with like when she's here, she trains in the ocean. Sometimes she said that when so this is the part that got cut out just because of pacing, where they would sometimes go and swim at one of the swimming pools of one of these hotels over here in Tonga, but they would have to go in the mornings, like it will be around like 5 to 6 a.m. or something, and during that time it's like really dark, and so they would sometimes, when they're swimming in the swimming pool, they would hit each other.
Oh God!
Because it's really dark. But I mean, so this is like, again, because they don't have proper facilities, they have to make do with whatever they get. So. Yeah.
And she's winning still. Yeah. She's getting medals,
Yes, yeah.
So okay, so what is this, like competitions in Fiji, Samoa? Is this like local Pacific competitions?
So she's competed in Samoa, Fiji. She's also competed in South Korea.
Wow.
I think in the Philippines. There's different countries she's competed in. So yeah, and she's still 16. I can't wait to see what will happen like in a few years.
Yeah, very. Sounds like she's got a very bright future ahead of her, and
Yeah.
best of luck to her. Is there a way that people can support her? Does she have like a way that that people can be more aware of what she's doing?
No
At the
idea.
moment, I mean, how they
Well,
do you know how they fund these trips and stuff? Is it from the government or do they
no. So this,
self-raise?
yeah. So for that, it'll be either two ways. It'll be either the government funding their trips and stuff, or it's the country that are hosting like training camps.
Mm.
And so she goes on those. So those are the opportunities for her to learn from other people. So they would have training camps. She's been to training camps in China and
Wow.
South Korea and stuff like that. So, but those trips are very short. So it's like she'll go for like 4 to 6 months to go and train in those training camps. But then she'd have to come back here and then train in the ocean or the swimming pool at the hotels.
And it's very different training in the ocean. I mean, it's very different against the waves and the current as compared to like a swimming pool, which is very, very calm and you know, a bit easier to navigate. So, yeah, I mean, that could work in her advantage. Makes her a stronger swimmer, and hopefully it can translate into, you know, into a swimming pool. But but I guess it comes down to technique in a way as well, isn't it? And you kind of need a swimming pool to sort of, you know, fine tune those techniques.
Yeah, because she said in the short, she said that like initially when she first went to go swimming in a swimming pool, like she was swimming as if she was swimming in the ocean, so upright.
It's different,
to counteract the waves.
Yeah.
But when she was swimming in the swimming pool, the coaches were telling her, "Dude, you're swimming not correctly. You're supposed to swim flat, so you can get more speed and stuff."
Yeah, less drag.
So it's those little, less drag. So it's those little things that, I think she's pretty cool. Her name is Noelani Day, in case you want to find her.
I mean, well, listen, if there's anyone out there who's got a lot of money and is looking to sponsor a Tongan up-and-coming swimmer, you know, hit me up and I'll get you guys the right information for it.
Yes.
You know, I mean, definitely. Cool. I mean, we need to support these up-and-coming athletes, you know? You know, I think it's really important. We definitely need that. Especially
like a sport that not that many people are competing in Tonga. So I thought especially it's weird people. I mean, it's not really weird because it's swimming, so it's a little bit more difficult to get facilities. But yeah, there's only like, I think from Tonga 2 professional swimmers from Tonga alone. The other Tongan swimmers that have competed in the Olympics are from Fiji and Australia, where they do have facilities over there. Yeah. So it's very even more small the pool that that is
just qualifying in itself is hard enough, you know. I mean, but yeah, I mean, listen, the best of luck to her. You know, hopefully she can get that get qualified for the Olympics, and it'll be amazing to see someone as young as her making it out there, despite the lack of facilities and despite the lack of financial support, shall we say, that's available to her. It'll be so awesome if we can get her out there, if possible.
She's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So with making all your documentaries, did anyone sort of like hit you up and say, "Yo, I feel very offended by what you've done"?
No.
No one's taking any offense to it.
I thought people were gonna, especially the first one, the one with the people with disabilities. I thought people were gonna actually come up to me and say, like, "Dude, you're making Tonga look really bad. Like, can you stop? Like, can you take down that video?" But it was shockingly a lot of support from people saying, "Oh, this is a really good documentary. Thank you for like bringing this issue up and stuff." So I don't know. Maybe one day I'll make a video and people will be like, "Dude, what are you doing? You're making Tonga look bad." But no, yeah, people have been pretty supportive on the messages and stuff.
Yeah, no, I think when you've made it, you know, it's when you start to get the negative feedback, you know.
Maybe. Maybe the audience is really small that I haven't got the trolls and stuff yet.
I think there's enough. There's a decent amount of people that's watched it already. That's, you know, will give you a good indication of how people have received it. You know, it doesn't take that much to find someone who'll be offended by the most smallest thing. So I don't think that's the issue. But, you know, I think, you know, I don't think anyone should shy away from showing these stories. You know, I mean, the people who sort of, you know, I guess your concern, it sounds like it was that someone was going to come and say, you know, like, why are you highlighting all the negative stuff in Tonga? You know, we should be only showing the good stuff. But the reality is you can't do anything about, you know, the negative stuff if you don't know it exists.
Exactly.
Why do people need to put up ramps? If you talk to a random person who does all the construction and infrastructure in Tonga, and they say like, why isn't there more ramps? It's like, ramps for what? Like, well,
exactly. Yeah.
I think the awareness side of things is very important. And that's what it's what the documentaries highlight is it creates that awareness that these people, they're here, and they're here to stay. And they definitely need to be included in the conversation with how Tonga's going to move forward.
Yeah. I'm definitely not afraid to talk about like controversial, or I don't even think it's controversial issues, but just issues that are not really widely discussed here in Tonga. I don't really care about like blowback and stuff, but yeah, so far, not many people are actually 0 people have said anything bad about the stuff I've put out there so far. But
and
yeah,
I think you shouldn't care about it. I think to a certain degree you can't take on board all that negativity. I think constructive criticism and negativity are 2 different things. I think for me and you, if I felt that you were doing something that that you could do better, which is what constructive criticism is, I would tell you, because it will be an honest feedback about how things are going, and that's how people grow. But what I don't think is helpful is people who sort of just come up and say, "Oh, that was shit." I didn't like that. I was like, well, can you expand a bit more? And they can't.
How about you? Have you got any negative feedback from you starting your podcast?
They wouldn't fucking dare. They wouldn't. No. Listen, I mean, I think I'm a very small podcast, so I don't think I get as many views or listens as I used to. I mean, like on average, like my podcasts probably get close to like 80 downloads, per podcast.
That's a lot.
I mean, listen, it's not that bad. 40 of it is me just listening to my own podcast, but
on loop.
Got to get these numbers up. Those are rookie numbers. You need to get those numbers up. No, but I think
awesome.
It's better than what I expected, which is I'm very pleasantly surprised about. And the numbers grow 1 or 2 per day, which means that there's people out there that is finding it.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah. But in terms of negative responses, none really. I mean, the podcast community here in New Zealand, the ones that I'm in contact with, are very supportive of other podcasts, especially other PI podcasts. They're very keen to highlight how awesome new podcasts are, and it's helped me heaps. It's helped me heaps, especially with my confidence, because. I mean, I would like feedback, and if anyone's listening and has reached this far into the podcast, I really do appreciate, feedback. I mean, it's the only way that I know, like, what people like and what people don't like. I mean, I do want to do, a good show, and I want people.
Dude, I want to have. Bro, you're doing an amazing thing, and it's also like you have like a lot of people. I don't know why you interviewed me, but you have a lot more people like to interview and stuff that, like, for example, like Isaac and Nucky and all these just like insanely amount of people that you're well connected to.
Well, they are on the list. They are on the list, But listen,
I cannot wait to hear those episodes.
Listen, I am interviewing you, sir, because you have released 2 very, very good, short podcast. Fucking hell, short documentaries that is worth watching. Listen, don't sell yourself short, man. It is very, very good. It is very good. And you need.
I can't wait to hear other people that's more talented. Like
Forget other people. We're here to highlight what you've done. Forget other people. They can wait their turn. You know what I mean? So this is how I never get guests on. I just insult every single person that sort of I have any idea of getting on the podcast. But I the thing is, I want to highlight more PI people. I'm happy to have anyone on if there's something interesting to have a conversation about. But I would ideally like to highlight PI issues and PI. PI stands for Pacific Islander for anyone out there.
And more episodes with you and Hannah, dude. I love those episodes.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. No, I'm really excited to do it. Hannah's too busy for me. She's got to study and
He's like waiting in line, dude.
Yeah, it's like, well,
people
listen,
that want to podcast.
yeah,
With you.
no, she's been very busy, and hopefully I can get her on a podcast soon. I think we.
I love those episodes.
I think we'll start something where we have something regular. Where we sort of talk about certain things regularly. It's pretty funny. No, she's really good. She surprised herself. With doing the podcast. I had to force her most of the time. But she's very, very good. So
she's really good.
Yeah, man. So what other projects you're working on at the moment? You said you're working on a third film. Are you allowed to share a little bit of it, or you want to wait until it's released?
No. So there's I'm doing a short documentary on Devi Talatu. He's a Tongan-based artist. Yeah. So I don't want to talk too much about the.
Oh, but that's cool. So you're focusing on.
But I just want to give like some brief
context maybe.
So like he's a Tongan artist here. I'm also doing one on one of our mates, Nucky, Richie.
Oh, Richie.
So he's helping out youths with these rugby programs for one of the. He works at the Talita project, and so I'm going to do a video on him as well. And
God,
those are the two that I'm. Yeah. And so and then again, there's other issues that I want to talk about later on, with the issues that I brought up before,
and those are
unemployment and stuff here in Tonga.
I love talking about those things, and I can't wait to see what you come up with. It's going to be very exciting, and I'm really, like I said, I'm really excited to sort of watch them. It's really hard for me to sort of sound genuine because 90% of my conversation is sarcasm, but I'm not being sarcastic this time. Okay, I'm actually serious. You've come out. Shut up! Honestly, I'm being serious, and you're not making it easy. You're making it very difficult for me to sound very genuine, and people are gonna think this fake ass fool. He doesn't mean it at all. I do mean it. I just don't know how to talk in a non-sarcastic
No, but
tone.
I will say probably because 2 years ago when I came over and crashed at you guys' place, that's where I got to see the other Geo, because the Geo that I knew was the one primarily where we were growing up in high school and stuff. And so it's all these different things where I'm just so surprised. I mean, I mean this in the best possible way, where it's it's just, you're very different from Geo in high school and stuff, where you're more, you're this very mature person. You're very caring. You listen thoughtfully to a lot of other people. You're also, I didn't even know that you were talented in doing interviews and stuff. So, and I kind of saw this when I came 2 years and crashed at your guys' place, where we were having all these conversations where we would sit up and talk for hours and stuff like that. So I think as much as you are saying that everything sounds sarcastic, I think it was a little good introduction for me to talk to you 2 years ago, and because you were very sarcastic.
I can't believe it's been 2 years ago since you stayed with us. I mean that's
I know,
God, that's so long ago. And yes, I do remember those conversations we had, because we had a mini debate about UBI. That's one of them.
Yes.
We also talked about Trump at the time.
Yes.
Which he is probably one of the most entertaining people I've ever known at the moment.
Dude, that guy depresses me so much, man.
Why? Let's not get into it. That maybe, you know what? It's almost worth me organizing us a different podcast where we talk about the political landscape of the world. It's gonna be so hilarious. And we might end up being into a massive argument, But that's
no.
The
And
nature of things.
I don't think it'll be. I think I love
of course,
talking about controversy, especially when we were talking again when I was there 2 years ago. We had a very respectful conversations about issues that we disagreed on, whereas opposed to when we were in high school, it was really not,
God,
not constructive at all.
Okay, so I have to say this now. Do you remember that? Okay, so just
Dude,
for context,
I know what you're gonna say.
I know you know
what
what I'm gonna say.
Even before you
so
say
we had our friends in Tonga, we argued. Okay, so you may not. There's two different instances I'm going to talk about. So we love, I wouldn't say arguing, but we love discussing different points of view and how things happen, right? So we've had multiple discussions, multiple quote unquote debates and arguments about freaking everything. We've talked about lot of crap. But there's two that stand out to me the most. So one, we were still in primary school, and I remember this very clearly, and it was, this debate was, do dogs have souls?
I knew you were going to bring Do they
go to heaven? Oh, so we had this long debate. Me, Josh, Tomasi, which is another friend of ours. I think Donnie was part of it too. We just, I think the majority of our friends were part of that too. We had this long ass debate. At the end of school day, we were sitting down waiting for our rides to pick us up. And we went into minute details about everything, about whether dogs show emotion. If they show emotion, that means they got a soul, and then I forgot who stood with who. Right now, I don't remember who was arguing for them having souls and who was arguing without them, because I think
I remember me saying that they did have souls, and I think, if I'm remembering this correctly, that Tomasi was saying that they don't have souls.
Yeah, okay, so that sounds correct to me. So that's just one taster of the kind of stupid crap that we talk about, and trust me, it got pretty heated. Fast forward a couple of years forward, we're all in high school, and the majority of the time, most of us would walk home. So on our way home, everyone's house is on the way back to our house, and we ended up having a conversation outside the cinema at the time before it burnt down during the riots.
Why did I know you were going to bring up those?
Because it's the ones that stand out the most. So we have another debate, and we're sitting outside the cinema, and the debate was, can Tonga, which is a coral island, be hit by a tsunami? Mind you, these are high school students who don't know jack shit about earthquakes, the way that tsunamis are formed, about geography, any of it. We are unqualified dickheads who didn't know what we're talking about. That's the premise. So we're sitting outside the cinema, and we're going at it. I think we're talking really loud too. Next thing I know, we're having this conversation. We've gathered a crowd. There's a crowd listening intently to this conversation about whether a tsunami can hit Tonga. And, we all came with different arguments. No, it can't, because we've got the Tonga Trench too close to us. We're a coral reef. There's not enough this, blah, 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 blah. And then it got even worse, because then we started getting audience participation. People from the audience, people from the crowd started coming in and explaining their point of view of what they thought would happen. And some guy came up with okay, if you bring a bucket and you put a bucket down with water in it and you tap the side of the bucket, it makes waves. Blah, blah, blah. I don't know where he was going with that. But it became this massive, massive thing. And we ended up, I think the crowd took over the conversation, and we all just slipped away and left. We all left. Exactly. And then, I reflect on that so much, and I think, imagine just what people were thinking when they saw these freaking idiots talking about tsunamis and whether it can hit Tonga. Should we put that to bed now? Should we put that to bed? And Google whether a tsunami. I'm Googling it right now. Okay, on a live recording. Can a coral island? No, let's see if it is.
No, but there's so many coral islands. Like, every coral island has a trench.
Let's go specific. Can Tonga be hit by
your listeners? I feel bad for
tsunami. So this is guys. This is me Googling it live during a recording. If I had a producer, they would be able to do it. That's why I can talk. But that's a different story. Can Tonga be hit by tsunami? It's Googling tsunamis in Tonga. In a total of 6 tidal waves classified as a tsunami since 1865, a total of 11 people died in Tonga. So with this is coming from worlddata.info /Oceania.
Fake news, bro.
Fake news. Were you for Tonga? You were for Tonga not being able to get hit by a tsunami, weren't you?
I forgot, man. I forgot
to. That was. I don't remember who stood for who. That I remember the debates. I don't remember who was arguing which point. So I've put that to bed. Tomasi, everyone that's been part of this conversation. I think Isaac was there too. I think anyone.
I'm pretty sure a tsunami can hit Tonga, but
yes,
because we haven't had one that looks like when it hit like other countries like India and stuff.
It's been Googled, Josh. It's been Googled. I just Googled it. Tsunamis in Tonga. A total of 6 tidal waves classified as a tsunami has killed 11 people in Tonga, which means there has been tsunamis. Okay? Well, I'm putting that to rest. Everyone who was part of that conversation, the random guy at the cinema, the random guy that came in, who was the security guard at the cinema, by the way, the random dude that was in the crowd who joined in and argued most likely against it. You guys are all wrong. You can go piss off. Tsunamis can hit Tonga. Okay, that's done. I've proved that wrong. Don't tell me it's fake news.
Let me have this.
I feel a sense of relief. I feel a sense of relief that after over 15 years plus, 15 years going on maybe 20, that probably over 20. Frick, over 20. You know that we've finally gotten on top of the long-held debate between our friends that a tsunami.
This is how long our arguments go. It takes 20 years to settle it.
Sometimes we never settle. I'm pretty sure if we bring this up again with Tomasi and someone, I feel like Tomasi always played the devil's advocate and always said no.
Most likely, man.
But I think if we brought this up again, they would disagree again. And if we brought up the dog argument again, he would disagree again.
Yeah.
Maybe, now that I'm thinking about it, with the dog having a soul debate,
oh my goodness.
I think Tomasi argued that they didn't have a soul because it allowed him to sleep better at night because he ate dogs.
Oh. But it's like, this is like a philosophical question of what is a soul? Can you quantify
oh my God,
something
this
as a soul?
This is our philosophical debates that we've had, is whether dogs have souls. That is the extent of how philosophical we thought in school in Tonga. Go figure. Go figure where we ended up in life. You know,
like, do plants have souls? See, this is why I don't want having these arguments, because we can go down a rabbit hole.
Don't start with me. Don't start with me. Don't start because I'm pretty sure our friends are gonna hear this, and they're gonna be like, you know what? I'm gonna message these guys. Actually, plants do have souls. What the?
I'm pretty sure vegans believe that animals do have souls. That's why they don't want to eat them and stuff. But I mean, again, it's like this weird thing of what is a soul and what is consciousness and all these different, like, what are these things?
Sir, I am going to stop you right there because you are opening the doorway for us to just have another long debate.
Exactly, yes.
But
it's torture your listeners.
Oh,
man, I'm pretty sure no one's listening at this point, man. It's been 2 hours.
No way. No, that's what the thing with podcasts is, that you allow it to sort of do it. You listen to it in segments. No one really listens to a podcast straight up. I don't.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. It's more about our conversation and enjoying it.
I actually listen to podcasts like a lot, because especially when I'm editing like pictures and stuff, like I'll take like a large chunk of my day and I'll just listen to podcasts in the background.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who drive, who does work, work in isolation and things like that. They podcast is it's a growing industry. Well, I don't know if you can call it an industry. I'm sure it's an industry, but it's a growing industry and it's becoming very popular very quickly. So, it's all good. It's all good. So wait.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Wait,
how about this? Let's make a let's say this word. If you're in like this deep into the podcast, like, let's just bring up a word that no one. Oh, just type down shenanigan. If you reach this part of the podcast, 2 hours, dude. I don't think anyone.
2 hours and 7 minutes, man.
Shenanigans. Type down some shenanigans in the comments.
Oh God, I was gonna say something rude, but I guess shenanigans would be. Well, yeah. So listen, I was gonna say something rude, but I better not. As a word to write down. So listen, it's going to be on YouTube as well. I'm going to finally get my episodes up on YouTube at some point, because you can't really comment on. I don't think you can comment on Spotify. I don't know about Apple Podcasts. Can you comment on Apple Podcasts?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. So it's on YouTube. If for any of the 5 people that listen to this podcast are with us to this point, comment down shenanigans or message me. No. You DM me on Instagram or Facebook at Thought Plantation Podcast, shenanigans, just so I know that you guys have gone this far and you're still with us and we are making some sense of a coherent argument about anything, No,
this actually makes me feel happy, because like, I'm pretty sure no one's listening at this point because it's really long. So I can just say whatever I want at this point.
You could
one will
you could say
fact check me on it.
unless I highlight this exact spot and then like post it up.
Will you ever do like highlights? I know that's more extra work.
I started doing a little bit of highlights on Instagram for my last 2 podcasts. So I'll definitely do a highlight here, and it's going to be this part where you say shenanigans. So
yeah, dude, I absolutely love that episode, Alice Little Hem, man. She's awesome.
No, she was one of the first people I thought about when I started this podcasting, because not only does she work in media, she's been on radio, she's been involved in a lot of big TV shows, and she's involved in a big TV show now at the moment called Pasifika, and she knows her shit. You know, she's always known her way around a camera, her way around a film set, and things like that. So. No, she's really good. She's really good. And I was really lucky to have her on. Mind you, I did pull the family card and say, you know, if you care about me as a cousin, you'd be a guest on my podcast. So you gotta pull the strings, man. You gotta make things happen. You need to be a go-getter.
Dude. Hustle hard, man.
Hustle hard.
Yeah,
so, did I see recently that you put down? You shared something about a short film competition in Tonga? Is there something going on like that, or?
Yes.
Yeah, talk to me.
Segue to promote something about this. So I'm involved in the Nuku'alofa Film Festival. So it's like a Tongan film festival, right? And so we will be having competitions for short films. This year, there's a chance that we cannot hold a festival because we don't know if we're allowed to have like people indoors and like a lot of people indoors and stuff like that. So. Right now, we're looking into hosting the film festival online, as many other film festivals are doing that, like Toronto Film Festivals, Kansas doing it, and all these other film festivals, right? And so also including in the virtual like film festival that we're going to be doing online, we're going to be joining up with other Pacific film festivals to try to see if we can do one big film festival with all of us together in one thing. Yeah. So submissions are open at the moment. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and stuff like that. It's Nuku'alofa Film Festival to get more details on how to submit. Man, we should have said this in the beginning. I'm pretty sure you know what this is. Anyways,
I'll highlight. Listen, I'll highlight this part, shall I?
Yeah.
No. Just talk a little. Yeah, talk a little bit about the film festival and stuff. So, has Tonga had a film festival in the past?
Yeah. So, Tonga Film Festival has been running for 6 years. I've just been made a member just recently.
Congratulations.
But yeah, so. Yes, it's actually pretty cool. And so we're looking to hold a competition in around October. Not only will we be doing it online, we'll also be airing the short films on TV Tonga. So that's the main TV station here in Tonga. Because we can have things online, but not everybody has access to either a smartphone or a computer. So or even just like data. Data is pretty expensive here in Tonga. So we're going to have all those short films that we're going to air them on TV Tonga.
Well, that's going to be amazing.
As well. And then we'll also have another competition. We're going to have a TikTok competition. And that TikTok competition will be, it'll include people from overseas, but the prizes will be mainly for kids here in Tonga. So we're going to have a competition for the youth here in Tonga to do with a TikTok competition. And we will be giving prizes. And those, in addition, will be shown on TV and stuff like that. We also will be having tutorials for so there who directed For My Father's Kingdom. She'll be doing something like a master class, and we'll be uploading tutorials of her like talking about her directing skills and her like the way she directs documentaries and stuff like that. So it'll be like these tutorials that we'll be releasing in short form on TikTok, and then we'll also be releasing that on TV Tonga as well.
Oh, that's amazing! You guys are really busy, eh? Can I just say? Can I just say? I believe TikTok is a form of mind control for the population, and I really dislike TikTok. But that's just me.
Yeah. No, I'm not a big fan of it either. But it's just because
media presence, my friend. I think that I mean social presence. You know, everyone's on TikTok, so. It's good. It's good that you guys are keeping busy though, you know. So the film industry in Tonga. I mean, I didn't realize that you guys had a Nuku'alofa Film Festival for the last 6 years. That's I don't know why I don't know that. Obviously it's local stuff, right? I mean, you don't have people from overseas coming in with their, their big budget trying to join the competition. It's all local guys, local people.
So, for this year, due to the complications of COVID-19, we will only be only accepting submissions from Tongan filmmakers, and that includes filmmakers from overseas.
Okay, as long as you're Tongan,
and from overseas. Yeah, so long as you're Tongan, we want to like highlight more Tongan films and short films and documentaries. So yeah, we'll be doing that this year. So hopefully, if there's any Tongan filmmakers out there listening, please try to share some stuff with us so we can show it. Because we'll also be showing it here. In addition, we'll be showing it in New Zealand on the Coco.
Oh, the Coconet.
TV thingy.
Yeah. I follow that on Facebook. So that's cool.
So we'll be sharing it with them as well.
Where were you guys advertising this anywhere at the moment, or
no? So at the moment, we're trying to get funding to advertise on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and stuff. Nice. At the moment, we're still in the beginning stages, but yeah, we'll have a big announcement one day.
That's awesome, man. That's very exciting. A lot of interest in filmmaking in Tonga at the moment.
At the moment, again, so this is that thing where the main interest, not the main interest, but most of the people that pursue their careers is mostly in like trying to be a doctor or a lawyer and stuff.
Yes.
So not that many filmmakers here in Tonga, and if there is, like, I'm pretty sure it's less than 100 filmmakers here in Tonga, right? And we're very dispersed.
That's still a big number. That's still a decent number.
Yeah, but so yeah, not that many filmmakers. But so in TikTok, there is like a large number of Pacific Islanders that you can see that they actually have talent in storytelling with their TikTok videos and stuff. I mean, I don't have TikTok app, but then sometimes I would scroll on Facebook and it would have
TikTok's
like
everywhere. You can't get away from TikTok at the moment. It's a new Vine, isn't it?
Yeah, and pretty much so. Like, again, you don't really need big expensive equipments to tell a story. You can, even if you just have something as simple as a phone, you can tell a story using that. I mean, there's been a lot of movies that have been filmed on a phone. There's Tangerine, Unsane, and High Flying Bird. Steven Soderbergh directed those last two, and also and they all used iPhones to film those films. So again, you don't really need big expensive equipment. All you need is just, even if you just have a phone, something simple as a phone, you can still tell a story.
You just need creativity and the drive to do it. Hey,
yes,
you just need
But that's what we're trying to
encourage. Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. I'll be looking forward to watching your short film of what you're going to be submitting. You are going to be submitting something, right?
Yes. I'm working on trying to do a short film this year to submit in the film festival as well.
That's gonna be a new challenge for you. Because
yes, I'm in the beginning stages of a script. It's just the ending, and that's like that I'm finding an issue with. But yeah,
I'm excited to see what you have to offer. If it's shit, I'll tell you.
Thank you. Good. This is the thing where I'm so happy that I have like friends and stuff like that that are not afraid to give me their thoughts. So like in particular with the photography, like there's been people that like just tell me like, dude, like the skin looks bad. It's too like this, too like that. I'm like, you could have started with, oh, that's a good job and stuff like that. You just begin with the
it's like ease the criticism, and it's like you're doing an amazing job, but
I know, but it's good to have like people be not like to be honest and stuff like that.
Like we said earlier in the podcast, it's about constructive criticism at the end of the day, isn't it?
So yeah, I'm looking to try to release at least one short film this year, hopefully two.
So what constitutes a short film? Like how long does it have to be before it's a medium film or a film? What's the time limit?
Sorry, I just got into the look off a film festival. But I think what constitutes a short film, it could be like anywhere between 4 to 40 minutes.
40 minutes even. Oh wow, okay.
because that's, from my understanding, that's what the Academy Awards is like. That's what they
classify short films as.
Yeah, as a short film, because a full-length feature film is something between 60 minutes to whatever, how long it is.
And I guess with the Nuku'alofa Film Festival, they'll have like parameters and time limits, obviously, because no one's going to sit there and watch 140-minute short films in a day, are they? They're gonna.
Yes.
Oh, 10 minutes is it? What's the time limit you're given?
That's
okay. Sorry, I mean, listen. You don't have. It's I've caught you off guard with this, and we just sort of.
Yeah. No, I think actually no. So, but I do know for short documentaries, the time limit for short documentaries is 30 minutes. Because I remember I wanted to submit my short documentary, but mine was like 32 minutes or something, so I couldn't submit mine.
Just cut out the just cut out the credits at the end.
Yeah, and the opening shot.
And the opening shot, because I can imagine with you 2 minutes, you can cut out quite a lot of important stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. God, puts things into perspective for anyone who's thinking about doing film, eh? I mean, you need to really... I guess you have to be open to cutting things that you're falling in love with, especially with the film.
Yeah.
You know?
You have to kill your baby. Kill your darling.
Yeah, that's what Alice said on the last podcast, is one of her biggest gripes. Well, not gripes, I guess, but the things that she really finds difficult is having to do that, is killing your darlings, which is all the work that you put into it, and then you have to sort of cut it up to only a sliver of what the actual interview and stuff was.
Yeah,
you know.
Really stuff.
Oh, man, listen. I mean, we can go on forever, really, can't we? About everything at film. So listen, I think at this point in time, because like you say, you know, anyone who's made up to this part, hit us up with the shenanigan comment or DM me with the word shenanigan. I had a much more ruder word in place, but if you, but you know, actually, it'll be a good.
What was your word?
I'm not gonna say it. I'll tell it to you after I stop recording. That's how you get banned from things. It's nothing racist.
Oh God!
It's nothing racist. Don't worry. But you know, you know, if anyone have reached this far, hit me up with shenanigan, you know, in the DM, just so we know you're with us still. But you listen, I think because you're right, we should have done this at the very beginning. I want you now to sort of promote all the things you need to promote now. You know, just keep it, you know, as brief if you want. But I think, you know, maybe I'll read stuff out and then you can sort of tell me where we can find it. Yeah, where can we find your two documentaries at the moment? Where would be the best place to look for it?
Yeah, so I'm on YouTube, Instagram, and on Facebook. The place you can find them at is called Digital Storytelling Tonga. Okay. On all three platforms, you just type in Digital Storytelling Tonga and you can find my short documentaries on there. Yeah.
So that's cool. What about your work as a photographer? Where can you find information on how to get a hold of you for photography?
So I'm only on two places. On Instagram, you can just type down Joshua Ake, JOSUAAKE, and on Facebook, it's Joshua Ake Photography.
Yep.
For my photograph.
Cool. And I think we should also highlight Lani the swimmer in your second documentary.
Yes.
And if there's anyone out there who would love to, you know, give suggestion or to support this girl who is working her ass off to get to the Olympics next year, where's the best? She's on Facebook, obviously.
Yeah, she's on Facebook. You can find her. Her name is Noelani Day. Or you can just because it's very difficult to get in contact with her. But if you do go on the short documentary and just type down a message that you want to send to her, I can try to link you up with her or her parents to talk to them.
Yeah, send a DM down to Digital Stories Tonga, or you can also DM the Thought Plantation Podcast at Instagram or Facebook as well. And we can connect you guys to those guys. Also, as Joshua has mentioned earlier in the podcast, not too long ago, the Nuku'alofa Film Festival is coming up, and they're looking for entries. Where can we find more information on the Nuku'alofa Film Festival, and how do we enter?
So those guys, all of them, they're all on all platforms: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and they're all called Nuku'alofa Film Festival. They even have a main website that you can find in any of three of those platforms, and then you can get more information on whether or not, how to submit videos and stuff like that. So you can find them in all 3 platforms. It's Nuku'alofa Film Festival, and they also have their own main website.
I'll leave some links in my Facebook and also the Instagram, just in case people who are too lazy to Google it themselves. You can just click on that link that I'll leave there.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that you want to sort of bring up or highlight at the moment? Because obviously with how awesome this podcast has gone, I've really enjoyed this podcast. That's not sarcasm. That
I know, yeah.
It's not sarcasm. I did really. It's cool to always, we do this all the time. We reminisce about the past, and we talk about the exciting things.
For it being so long.
Why are you apologizing? Podcasts are meant to be long, and and it's something that people can work towards. And like I said, if you've made it this far, hit us up with shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
Yeah, shenanigans. And like I said, I've really enjoyed this podcast, and we definitely need to come back for another one. There's so much untold stories about our youth that I think that's
Dude,
worth.
If you'll have me, man.
Yeah, no. I'd really like to talk about that time you thought you were part of the Bloods gang, and.
Why'd you have to bring that up, dude?
We definitely need to, highlight. Hey, man, I thought I was a Crip. Remember? And then me and you had like this.
We wore the bandanas.
We wore the bandanas as if we're. So that's for another podcast, but. Yes. Listen, thank you, Josh, for being part of the podcast. I really appreciate you, giving us your time to sort of explain everything that you've been up to so far.
Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, no, you can, I'll leave all the links in the description on Instagram and Facebook on how to get a hold of Josh's information and also how to get a hold of his 2 documentaries, La Lava and Lotolahi. Appreciate everyone for sticking with us so far. Hit us up with the word shenanigans if you're with us at up to this point. And also, I do appreciate the people who do listen to the podcast. I really appreciate everyone taking their time to listen to 2 hours and 24 minutes of complete bullshittery.
2 hours, 24 minutes?
According to the recorder. I'll probably cut that down to 2 hours and 23 minutes, but but listen,
oh my goodness.
With all that said, check us out on Instagram and Facebook. You can find us on at the Thought Plantation Podcast, and you can find all of Josh's stuff at Digital Storytelling Tonga. Listen, I appreciate everyone for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.